Hey, dear Queenagers, sorry this is a bit late. I was writing this before I went into my silent retreat in Devon and I'm now back. But the video that I sent with the audio before I went in didn't send because I was in the middle of a Wi-Fi desert and I've had no phone for a week. But anyway, I'm going to write about all of that when this week for next weekend's email. But this is the Sunday newsletter just gone. So I was saying I was writing this before entering into my silent retreat, and I was writing it on the train as I went down there, and as I say, I'll write more about what the week in the quiet by the River Dart was like. And if you're interested in silent retreats, do have a look on the Noon website, because there's a whole load of stuff about silent retreats and about how I survived the last one I went to and why I love them. And I was also talking about the Arsenal parade, which was surprisingly fun and kind of wonderful to be amongst millions of people of every creed and background joyously celebrating together in our divided world. It was a real paean to what unites us. I quite enjoyed wearing my husband's Arsenal shirt. It was kind of fun. And so that was a bit of a good jumping off point for this week's newsletter, which is all about how we as Queenagers can use all of our accumulated wisdom to help the next generation. This is something that I really feel passionate about, and ever since I started Noon, we've been talking about doing some official mentoring, and we've had so many incredible women who really want to give back. So I always think that when you kind of put out there that that's something you want to do, the universe sends it to you. So I was really thrilled when wonderful Karen Stenning, who lots of you will know because she co-hosts Noon's Brighton Circle, and she introduced me to something called the Girls Network last month. It was set up by a woman called Becca Dean, a Queenager in training, who became a teacher through Lucy Kellaway's incredible Teach First programme, straight out of university. And Dean discovered while she was teaching, and Teach First goes into some of the more difficult areas of the UK, and she discovered that many of the girls she met as a teacher had a very limited sense of what might be possible in their lives because of how and where they'd grown up. And she wanted to give them a sense of a kind of expanded sense of what they might be able to do. So she created something called the Girls Network to help talented girls lacking in confidence or a broader worldview to aspire to become more than they thought they could be. So the Girls Network works with schools in some of the most deprived parts of Britain. And Becca Dean says, at the Girls Network, we know that you can't be what you can't see, which is why we connect girls and young women with relatable role models who can help them build confidence and explore their potential and imagine a future full of possibility. So I really love that. And she also talks about how the pandemic and the aftermath of the pandemic and the isolation and the disruption to education it caused are still being felt by many young women. And she talks about how many of the women they're supporting are navigating really reduced confidence and lower academic attainment and a wider barriers to opportunity and what they think they might be able to do. And she sees how they're confronting issues such as the negative impact of social media, which, you know, there's lots of that around in the media this week because it looks like we're going to get a ban, and how that's impacting their self-image, their concerns about safety and a fear both of speaking up and of not being heard. And she describes how, with the help of their mentors, which is where I'm hoping a lot of you Queenagers will come in, these girls are managing to push back, change the narrative, and step into their futures with renewed confidence, belief, and strength. And how girls from the least advantaged communities face a double disadvantage of gender inequality, which is exacerbated by poverty. What she calls both the glass ceiling and the class ceiling continue to hold these kinds of young women back. And geography also matters. Educational outcomes for instance, in the north of England lag those in the south, which amplifies the challenges for girls in less prosperous parts of the UK. So I was talking to Becca about how we might be able to help. And I was hoping that you wonderful Queenagers might help the Girls Network, who are currently looking for more mentors to work with their girls. They're after women just like you, wonderful Queenagers, who can help the girls see what they might be through and support them through school and the first steps of careers. So it's often just kind of explaining, why science might be good to say study science and what that might lead to. And last year, the network supported 1,300 young women through a mixture of one-to-one mentoring, group mentoring, and workshop programs. And they are looking for a new kind of cohort of mentors. So I offered your Queenager services. If you'd like to sign up, go and look at go to the Girls Network website and say you've come from Noon. And one of the reasons I was really passionate about this was because when I was a journalist, I did a big series of articles about children who lived on something called the Broadwater Farm in the north London in Tottenham, where some of you remember there'd been big riots. And I went there and we wrote a story about children who dreaded the holidays, which was such a kind of anathema, because I remember at the time, all of us, we were, thinking of kind of where we were going off on our summer holiday, or many Sunday Times readers were sending their children off to kind of tennis camp or, this or that. And we wrote this story about the children who dreaded the holidays because without school, they often went hungry because they got free school meals. And school also provided a place where they could play outside because they were often confined to damp or boiling hot flats. And it was very dangerous to play outside on the estate because there was a lot of kind of gang violence. It wasn't very safe. So these were really kids living a circumscribed life by the areas that they were in. And I also ran another campaign when I was at the Sunday Times about Britain's poorest children as a Christmas campaign. And I spent 2 weeks in Blackpool meeting the families who were going to benefit from the money that we raised. And I heard some stories which really shocked me. I mean, some of the children there had never been to the beach, despite living so close to it. Others had never seen a hill. And the majority only got breakfast if the school provided it, which was funded by money from these kinds of fundraising schemes. So it was really interesting when I was talking to the Girls Network about the kind of children that they were mentoring. They told me really similar stories. They said that on a recent trip to Chester Zoo, attended by one of their team, several of the kids on the bus remarked that they had never seen a cow in a field before. They were actually more amazed by the cows in the field than they were by the animals in the zoo. And this is why broadening their horizons is so important, and where a kind of, particularly just because people come from poor neighbourhoods doesn't mean to say that they're not highly intelligent, and they often just don't know what they might be. And I really know from my own personal experience how this kind of mentoring really, really helps in expanding the children's horizons. So the Girls Network will help you as a mentor kind of work with the girls. They'll tell you exactly what they need and what they need you to do to help them boost their self-esteem and confidence. And it would be really amazing if some of you would kind of step up and help these girls, because I know that lots of you would like to do that. And they also, it's things as basic as explaining how interests or hobbies outside school can link with different job sectors. And most importantly, I think mentors become cheerleaders for the girls and for the kinds of futures that they might have. And it really helps. I remember one story that I did. This has been a real passion of mine for a long time. I went with a charity called the Sutton Trust, which helps kids from deprived backgrounds get into some of our top universities. And we took a cohort of about 30 children to America to see universities there. Some of these big American universities have scholarship programs which will pay for everything, from a winter coat to a computer. And we took them around places like kind of Wesleyan and Princeton, and these kids, after some of them had never been on a plane, and after a week going around all these universities, they were kind of talking about their futures in a completely different way. You could see their horizons expanding day by day. And as chair of Women in Journalism, I created an industry-wide mentoring scheme, which has been an incredible lever in getting women into different kinds of jobs. And I really believe that those of us who have been fortunate enough to have had good lives and careers should give back. which is why I really want to introduce you Noon ladies to the girls network. So maybe you could make a difference. And I think it's also really interesting and fun, for oneself to explore other people's experiences. So if you'd be interested in being part of the girls network, go to this newsletter on the site and you can sign up. There's a link which will take you through. And when you go through their form, when it asks you how you found out about it, say Noon, and they will explain to you exactly what's required. And if you want to have a look at their website, it's called the Girls Network, and it explains quite a lot more there about being a mentor. So this is why you're getting this a bit late. I'm sorry if this sounds a bit rambly. I'm still feeling slightly otherworldly. And I really hope that you consider signing up to be part of this incredible scheme. And also, a little note for your diary. Tomorrow, Tuesday the 9th, I'm going to be doing a live interview with the man called Michael Clinton, who's chair of an organisation in America called Raw Forward, which is a bit like Noon in New York, and it's called Longevity Nation. He's really interested in how we live longer, better lives. He's the former president of Hearst magazines in America, and he runs a kind of similar network. He did a wonderful event for me when my book came out in the States last year. He's really a live wire. He's got fantastic things to say about how we make the most of the 100-year life. And I think it'll be really good. So it's on LinkedIn. It's a LinkedIn Live on Tuesday. I'll share that. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you can find it. And also, just to remind you, we've had over 500 of you sign up for our new Entrepreneurs Club. So if that's something that's interesting to you, or a Queenager entrepreneur or somebody who's becoming an entrepreneur who might be interested, do spread the word. Thank you for listening as always. We're running a Noon Circle tonight in London, so I'm going to be reporting back on that, and also there are circles all the way around the country, so do come along, and if you've been listening to this or reading this for a while and you haven't yet drummed up the courage to come along to an in-person event, give it a whirl. It might just change your life. You've certainly all changed mine. Thank you.